The entire office is watching us.
No pressure.
Nervous? No.
Very.
Part of the cinema, you thought I did thought about it. All the work that we have done and all the experimentation, all the lessons that we have learned, all the IP that we have collected have gone into this new product that we've put out there called. We're in really strange times right now. There's a global energy crisis and this race for intelligence. Do people underestimate how much of an effect war has on technology?
I think war and instability have always made an impact far less impressionable than most people realize. On the surface, conflict feels like it would derail progress, but in reality, it creates uncertainty. Economies slow down, supply chains break down, but if you look at history more closely, war has often been the biggest accelerator to technology. I mean, you take the internet, it traces back to ARPANET, the US Department of Defense project that essentially made it so that we had resilient communication systems in times of conflict. We even trace it back to GPS, which is now accessible in almost every technological device we have, our phones. And it helps with, enormous amounts of things, but how did it start? It was for military navigation. And even if we're taking it in modern context, we take the war in Ukraine, we have companies like SpaceX deploying Starlink satellites that help communication during those conflict zones. And that's a real-time example of private companies actively creating that infrastructure. And I think it's something that we couldn't have thought about even decades ago. So in that case, I think instability doesn't necessarily slow innovation, it redirects it. But Henny, for your thoughts, do you think war changes not just the speed of innovation, but the priorities behind it, from convenience to even resilience?
I think it definitely changes the priorities to some extent. I mean, that definitely affects the speed at which technology improves. Like, I think in industries and areas like autonomous weapon systems and stuff like that, it has boomed in the last couple of years. You look at the progress that companies like Anduril Technologies has made, becoming this, starting off as this small boutique defense company and now winning large contracts in the US. So I think definitely there is changes in spending patterns, or at least changes in terms of how much development these technologies have had. But there are certain areas that have definitely been really interesting, especially in artificial intelligence. I think the future of warfare is going to be less to do with guns and bombs. It's going to be more to do with how people attack systems and how people control and monitor many situations. I think when you take situations like the crisis in Ukraine or the crisis in Gaza, for instance, I think there's so much utility in having this kind of technological developments, because the brutality of it reduces big time. So we are seeing that trend, and we think, I see people moving in that direction, but it's really hard to tell. I think it was really cool to see. I think in the 1900s and that era, during the Cold War, there was this big race to who builds the most nuclear weapons and who builds the most ICBMs in the world. But now this changing. It's who builds the best GPUs, who creates the most amount of compute, who makes the most amount of energy efficient computers. So that's the direction it's going, but it's really hard to tell. Technology will change every month. So that's my thought right there. But I think with the current state of things and with the crisis, there's this huge dilemma that founders and businesses and people all across the world kind of might be facing right now, which is, okay, it's turmoil, it's instability. Do we just sit and wait? Do we wait for the large stakeholders to solve this problem? Do we hold back on our ideas? Do we hold back on innovation in other areas? Because your question was really important. Does warfare and does instability cause changes in terms of focus in technology? And the truth is, it shouldn't. And I don't think it entirely does either, maybe to some extent. But what are your thoughts there?
I think what's interesting, if we look at it historically, periods like this, moments that feel unstable and transitional, and often those periods produce some of the most important companies. If you look through history, there's HP. It started off in a garage during the end of the Great Depression, and it's not only just been this company that's done well, it's laid the groundworks for what we call Silicon Valley today.
Yeah.
And additionally, there was the financial crisis of 2008 that shaped the global economy. And we saw a new wave of companies emerge. We had Airbnb pop up because people couldn't afford to go to hotels. They needed different solutions, and it was under those circumstances that Airbnb created home sharing so that people could make income and travelers could afford accessible accommodation. And I think building on that, we see apps like Uber that brought in ride sharing. You had WhatsApp that started with one simple basis, which was to make communication accessible. And that starts from the conditions that they were born into. And if we really take into it, the crisis itself didn't create these companies, but it created those conditions for these companies to emerge and really become big. And if we look at it realistically as well, I mean, home sharing didn't compete with hotels. Ride sharing didn't compete with taxis, and it didn't compete within this market. It created new markets, and that's why they succeeded.
100%. I couldn't agree more. I think, especially in times where there is instability, it should be the duty of founders and entrepreneurs to be looking for opportunities within those times. I think even though the narrative right now is around energy, because of energy insecurity, or even though the narrative is around warfare and investment in defense, there is still so many opportunities out there. I think even the Apollo Consulting Group was born during a time of crisis, and I think it's extremely important to identify the opportunities that people have right now. I mean, firstly, we're in the age of artificial intelligence and agentic technology. So for the most part, some of the hardest skills that you have out there is completely commoditized. Take development. For the most part, you can vibe code your next big idea and put that out there. That's something that's completely new. And I mean, people are so far more connected than we've ever been before. So the opportunities are truly endless. I mean, I think the most important thing is the state of geopolitics is always going to be cyclical. It's always going to be ups and downs. It's always going to continue. So there's no point trying to time the market. The objective, if you want to create growth in any market or industry, is to just start, just move.
And I think something that happens, when you're building a business in those times is you have constraint. You're born into the business with those constraints. And what were those early challenges you faced when building ACG?
So the Apollo Consulting Group was founded during the civil unrest in Sri Lanka not too long ago, with the political turmoil in the country. And the honest truth is, I think it was a period of time where incumbents in the market and other consulting companies and agencies were either closing doors or minimizing costs. And the main thing that they were foregoing was attention, because they had to cut down on costs and because they had to kind of manage things because of the times. People were not spending money on advertising. They were not spending money on creating great content and getting attention. And so I think that is something that we were able to capitalize on. We raised our first round of funding during the crisis, and we were out on the streets creating content amongst the protesters and the strikes. So for us, our biggest advantage was the fact that when other people were cutting costs, we were looking to spend. And I think that is a good indicator for most people, where the first cost to cut is not marketing. I think that's one of the biggest things. A lot of companies across the world, not just in Sri Lanka, it's a huge problem where as soon as there's this downturn in the economy, or as soon as there's any sort of a problem in the overall cash flow, the first thing they cut is marketing, which is insane. Right? You lose visibility, you essentially lose the fabric of your business. So that's, I think, one of the areas in which we were able to kind of find an advantage. But I think it varies from industry to industry. It varies from where your business actually lies. For us, it was just purely attention. I think one of the more interesting things that we have been able to see is this shift away from traditional consulting, and even I'd say the death of the traditional agency. What are your thoughts on this? How urgent is it?
I think if we take back, what consultancy was 20 years ago and 30 years ago, it was reports, it was presentations of solutions to companies that you could really sit down and study problems. And I think the main difference now, like you said before, we're also connected. And because of that, we have to work 1,000 times faster. And we're at a time where we don't really have months on end to solve this one problem. And even then, as consulting agencies or any such, to be able to provide that solution is one thing, but to be able to help execute as well is almost vital for consulting companies right now. And I think it's the companies that take that execution step seriously that are really seeing progress. And I see that being the foundation of what future consulting looks like, is being able to identify those problems, solve those problems, and act on them immediately.
Yep, 100%. I think a really good case study was Motorola in 2006. They were trying to enter the Indian market and they hired McKinsey as their chief consultant. And the market, like their entire project absolutely failed and it collapsed, mainly because of the fact that there's two problems, and you mentioned one of them pretty precisely. The first problem is the value of strategy. I think, firstly, right now, I mean, in 2006, maybe it was valuable, but right now, strategy is not as valuable as you would imagine, mainly because of the fact that it's like you can find information anywhere now. It's so accessible. Like artificial intelligence will come to the point where it will replace the average strategizer's job. So that is one big part of it. But also, you look at the way traditional consulting takes on strategy. They usually fit it into these traditional old scale models and frameworks, and they call it the McKinsey framework, and it carries this prestige, but it doesn't really carry that much value, because when you fit things into certain models, what generally ends up happening is you oversimplify the businesses, the variables around the business. And I think that was one of the biggest problems as to why Motorola failed in 2006. But then, just as you said very rightly, it's execution. I think people right now would rather pay for execution and results than for ideas and strategy. I mean, ideas are great. I think ideas will always have some value, but in this situation, like giving a strategy and not executing it means you can't stand on your idea. And so I think that's the direction consulting should move. I think if companies like McKinsey and BCG are not going to adopt these things and change because of the times, they will get left behind. I mean, you're seeing declining growth year on year. People just can't afford their services anymore because their structures are so large, they're so bureaucratic, they don't really deliver value anymore. So I think that's the biggest thing I would say. I mean, for the most part, one of the areas where I notice that consulting is broken the most is the lack of creativity. They're building all these systems and they're leaving out one of the most important things that these consultants are hired to figure out, which is creativity. What are your thoughts here? How do you think the traditional consultant or the new consultant in this modern day and age should be handling building systems, but also managing the creative side of it as well?
I think the way we look at creativity, I think, has become sort of this added film, a layer that only becomes important when you think about branding and when you think about marketing. But realistically, I mean, creativity is such a fundamental value that should fuel the way it creates your systems. I mean, we've seen businesses like Apple. It doesn't only exist in its marketing or in its branding, it exists in how their ecosystem is created, down to how products were made, down to the thinking behind that. And I think that's where a lot of businesses are really lacking now, is that we've fallen into this very systematic, long drawn processes that often just take more time than it actually does add value. And I think it's once we start actively using that creative and building that creative environment that we actually see successful outputs.
You personally have been managing the creative strategy for so many of our customers here at ACG. Talk to me about how your role and your task is kind of changed and evolved over time with the impact of artificial intelligence, but also with the impact of other people using artificial intelligence.
I think there's definitely a gap in terms of how AI can be effectively used and how it's being used. Me personally, in my job, it's definitely a tool. And I think in terms of creativity, it should only be a tool. I don't think AI has reached to the point where we can fully trust it for creative output. But I think how businesses should be using AI should be, again, integrating it into their systems. We see a lot of companies throw out terms like AI powered while not really effectively using it. And I think how we operate, as in like a day in my job at ACG, it's very much dealing with a lot of people coming back with how they use AI and how their ideas are perfect because they use AI. And I think there's a lot of discrepancies in how these ideas are formulated, how people use AI. And I think it's really up to businesses and how they choose to grow and how they choose to put AI to use.
Yeah. Consider yourself to be a spokesperson for the creative industry, right? Do you feel any sort of job insecurity with the rate and the compounded growth of artificial intelligence and the impact that it's having, all the way from basic content writing to high level production? Uh, do you feel any jobs insecurity, or do you feel like there is a future? It is just one where we have to adapt to.
I like to think of it like this. If you take the calculator, when it was first created, you had mathematicians fighting for their lives, basically saying we shouldn't use the calculator, we shouldn't use these tools. But now it's something that fuels that industry. The same way I believe that AI is something that's still so new that you really can't determine how it's going to be used 20 years later, and it's really up to seeing the level that it gets to. And right now in this moment, I don't see there being job insecurity when it comes to AI, because at the end of the day, it still doesn't really understand human emotion. And I think that's a fundamental in terms of a creative. You know how people feel, and especially within marketing, that's almost essential. It's psychological, understanding people's wants and needs. And that's something that AI hasn't adapted to yet, so I think, talking about the future of consulting and even consultancy on its own, I mean, ACG started off as a marketing agency and it's grown so much since its inception. And I think, I'm sure that's something that you wouldn't have expected from the get-go. And if you take a lot of businesses, when they start, they kind of have this foundational idea that they build on that progresses into something far larger. You have Instagram that started off as a location-based, like a location sharing app, but the picture sharing was kind of the main quality that people really clung on to. So in your case, how much of the growth of ACG was discovery as opposed to experimentation, or even both?
I think the honest truth is, at the very start, we knew that a pivot was coming. So we started the idea knowing that we are going to have to evolve if we're going to survive. Uh, I'd say most, well-performing businesses don't necessarily think that way, mainly because of the fact that the pivot comes when it comes. But I think in terms of the direction technology and AI was headed, it was pretty easy for us to kind of guess what we'd end up doing. I think one of the early conversations that we had when we were starting the company was, surely there's going to be a software or a product that replaces everything we do, where the traditional agency or the traditional consultant is going to be rendered useless. And we didn't expect artificial intelligence to scale to the point where it has come to right now, but we knew it was ahead of us. And what we told ourselves is that if anyone is going to build a product that replaces the work we do, it is going to be us. Now, I think this is like an interesting topic, because uh, all the work that we have done and all the experimentation, all the lessons that we have learned, all the IP that we have collected, have gone into this new product that we've put out there called Varian. And for us, it's probably one of the most exciting ventures to ever be in, because one thing is, now is the time for artificial intelligence to start being integrated into businesses. That's one part of it. But also, two, it's us getting into product development, and it's something that we've been doing for about a year now. But building world-class products which people enjoy using and people actually use, that is an area of expertise that we've really enjoyed building, and we've built a really strong team around that as well. So us having this marketing prowess and this digital product engineering ability has been probably one of our biggest strengths coming into this year. But if I can touch on Variant, right, what this product actually is, because there's nothing that keeps me up at night more than this topic right here. Firstly, just to kind of preface what this product is, it is a business command center, right, which manages every critical touch point of the modern business. Now, to give a little bit of context, right now businesses use several tools to manage their business. You have tools for accounting, you have tools for operations, maybe for marketing, HR, so many different tools. And the truth is, they're all great tools in terms of pure function, right? They get the job done. And I think the SaaS industry had grown on the backs of these tools, mainly because of the fact that on a very surface level, they got the job done. But these tools being so fragmented and in so many different places, and you having to get so many different subscriptions and different products, meant that one thing is data is siloed. Uh, what you do in terms of your operations has a direct correlation with your cash flow. It has everything to do with where you make money and where you lose money. So why are these two platforms two separate places? This is just an example. It is the same thing for every touch point of the business, whether it is HR, whether it is marketing, no matter what it is. And we created one centralized center where all of these touch points, all of these tools created by these SaaS products have been put into one place, and is powered by this intelligence engine that we have created. So the idea here is to create this artificial intelligence business partner, where when you're starting your business out, that unfair advantage that large scale enterprises have, now you have it. That if you didn't understand the language of business, which is accounting, if you didn't have an accounting degree, or if you don't know how to do financial scenario planning or forecasting, that shouldn't be a reason as to why a good product shouldn't exist. If you're an ambitious founder and you've got a great product, those factors should not be some things that inhibit your success. So we're kind of leveling the playing field. We're giving everyone that advantage, and I think uh, as this product scales, we believe that it will turn into an ecosystem that impacts every touch point of the modern business. Now, the reason it's so important right now is because we're actually looking at an AI bubble in the world. I think don't quote me on this, but the number is like $1.6 trillion have been spent on AI products since 2013. And if you really think about it, you can probably count the serious AI developments with both your hands. Could be OpenAI, could be Anthropic with Claude, it could be those kind of things. But there haven't been that many advancements. You really think about the numbers. I mean, I think it was $150 billion to send the International Space Station to space. It only cost that much to do such a large thing. I think the entire Apollo mission costed a little bit more than that. There's been $1.6 trillion spent on its AI products, and you haven't seen real systemic change. And the main reason for that is because all this investment and funding has gone into all these little gimmicks and products, these cool ideas, image renderers and video creators, but they haven't been integrated into businesses. That's because businesses don't have the modern infrastructure to do so. I think it was, funnily enough, McKinsey that did a study, and in that study they found that only 1% of businesses were truly mature in their adoption of artificial intelligence. What does that say, right? For us, we didn't know any of this information when we started building Varian. Our main thought processes was, we want to support startup founders, give them that unfair advantage. But now what we're seeing is there is this massive gap for business infrastructure that integrates AI, and our product will be the first one that does it across multiple platforms. The way we've designed the platform is to have cognitive context intelligence, which means that as you feed it more information and as you interact with it more, it continues to get more intelligent. It's almost a living, breathing being itself. So, where this is probably the legacy project for the Apollo Consulting Group. We know that with the amount of interest we have from investors and customers, people who want to start using the platform immediately, we're going to see a change in the way businesses actually behave. But we're a couple of months away from it. I think, like I said, we're getting into this area of product development, and in the last couple of months, traveling and seeing the state of the world, the state of technology and the state of business, honestly, in Sri Lanka is so far behind. I think in terms of the quality of the products and the quality of the services, and the level that the rest of the world operates at, it is concerning that uh, Southeast Asia and some countries in Southeast Asia don't really meet the mark. But I think as a company, this is a gap that we'd like to bridge, and I think a commitment we would love to make is to have Varian and the Apollo Consulting Group to be a Sri Lanka first company that hires Sri Lankans, that brings jobs to this country, because we think that as the company grows, we are going to be hiring so many more people, because for us to build this intelligence engine, you need more ideas, you need more people thinking. And so the future is really bright, and I think as a company we're really excited for that. One of the interesting things about this product we're building, Varian, is that uh, we believe that it will create so many jobs because of the fact that we're empowering businesses. But we also do see traditional elements of business kind of being replaced or at least being changed, altered slightly. You take areas like accounting and traditional consulting and HR. I mean, you look at the modern structure of a business, HR is also, very visibly a dying trend in the West. Do you think that AI replaces people and jobs, or do you think that right now it's just exposing all the bad operators?
I do think it's a balance of both. There are definitely going to be certain jobs that aren't going to exist anymore. It's going to be entirely handled by AI. But I think on a larger scale, if you take especially creative jobs, and I would like to highlight that more specifically, as it is something I, am more up to date with. I think on that level, it's going to have to be extremely difficult, because if you take majority of, let's say, marketing tools, or even just on a larger level, I think creativity works in such a way that it understands its surroundings, something that, again, at this point in time, AI does not understand. The way that in marketing, where I think there is this common understanding of marketing has certain rules and frameworks that we have to exist by. But if you take some of the most successful marketing campaigns, it started because they've created solutions for problems that nobody would even begin to understand. And I think that's really where it will take away people who don't have that ability to be able to answer those tough questions and be able to compartmentalize into a way that you can actively show these answers to someone and have them understand it. And I think on a larger level, AI will help fuel those people who have that drive and that creativity. But at the same time, I can't say it in good conscience, knowing that it is definitely going to be a point where we're already seeing jobs being taken away. So in that respect, when countries start thinking about AI, chips and data and digital infrastructure as strategic assets, what drives that innovation?
I think, this is a really important topic because right now we're seeing so many issues happening overseas with chip manufacturing. Like for instance, if you really take a look at it, it's an insane statistic. About 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductors come from one company, and the company is in Taiwan, which means that all of the technology and the innovation that's happening in the United States can be directly affected by a potential China invading Taiwan situation. And so that is a big insecurity, and I think that's something that the world thinks about. So the company is called TSMC, and they have been making billions of dollars on the backs of all these AI startups. And what we've actually seen is that this race to build the best semiconductors and the best GPUs is affecting exports in many countries. Like for instance, I'd say in the US, I think there was a export ban on NVIDIA chips to China because of the fact that the US government believes that these chips will give China an advantage that the US doesn't have. Their ability to compute at such high energy efficient rates is a big advantage. And so you have these economic restraints being placed on GPUs and chips because people know, companies know, governments know that the future of technology and the future of cyber warfare starts with chips. So in a way, I feel like realistically, like I mentioned, NVIDIA being blocked from exporting some of their most advanced semiconductors gives the United States an advantage that China may or may not have. Right? In my opinion, it's very counterproductive to the whole industry. But like that is the way they're thinking right now. And I think even in terms of the manufacturing of semiconductors, countries are trying to move that inward. I think having this monopoly in semiconductor manufacturing is such a big risk to the entire world, because imagine TSMC stops being able to export the chips. It's done. The entire market is going to collapse, because right now one of our largest market drivers is in technology, and that will completely halt. So governments are taking steps. Like for instance, I think in the US, in Arizona, they're building a branch of TSMC to start building semiconductors there as well.
Okay, so I think we should wrap up now, because we've been currently filming this whole thing in our office, and everyone's kind of working behind the scenes. So I think to quickly wrap this up, I think we've discussed a variety of topics. We've gone through the future of consulting, we've gone through the inception of ACG, Varian, and crisis and creativity. And I think one of the main things to add is like, none of what we talked about, I guess, would be saying that crisis or instability is something that's easy. It definitely brings so much hardship on customers and businesses alike. And I think it's recognizing that despite that, there's still so much opportunity. And we notice just how much the conditions that we exist in are changing, and really taking advantage of those changes and being able to, grow bigger than those things. And I think to conclude, I would say that if you're a business or if you're a customer on your own or you're a founder, these shifts aren't something that is necessarily only going to be hardship. There is opportunity for growth if you look for it, and I deeply suggest that you do look for it.
100%. I couldn't agree more. I mean, if my last thought was anything, it would be that as well, which is that, we're not underestimating or trying to undermine the impact of crisis on businesses and people across the world. It is a hard time, and I obviously have a great deal of empathy for that kind of situation. And honestly, as a business owner, my thought process is also that of, okay, I need to be aware of it, and I need to make sure I'm prepared for it. But people should be looking for opportunity. I think an innate part of capitalism is finding the diamond in the rough. So uh, you know one thought I would impart is look for opportunity, but more importantly, start having conversations, start talking about the situations in the world, whether it is with your partners, whether it's with your business associates, whether it's with yourself. Try to figure out how exactly you can create an advantage in the grand scheme of things with the rest of the world, because when you are competing in local economies and local markets, you tend to lose sight of the big picture. And when the wave of technology and the wave of improvements in AI, it'll hit you like a truck. So it's really important that you kind of remain aware of what's going on with the rest of the world, and try to beat the curve if you can. Try to anticipate what's going to happen. Try to build that next new product. And I think there's nothing to be afraid of. There's everything to be excited about with adopting this new privilege that we have, which is artificial intelligence. So yeah, that's my last thought. Honestly, we're having these conversations right now because there are a lot of great conversations happening here in Sri Lanka and in Southeast Asia, but we think that more people do need to talk, and we think that more ideas do need to come forward. And so this is our little initiative of getting our ideas out there as well. So yeah,